Open. And the numbers are climbing. So wait just a minute to get started, and then we'll hit it. Welcome everybody. Yeah, this is always fun, just watching the numbers tick up and up and up. All right. All right, so I say we just go for it. I know people will be coming in, but hey everybody, welcome to the second interview of Wednesday in our expert inner circle and bass retreats. As you know, I'm interviewing really some of the world's top jazz musicians, educators, and creative thought leaders. And we're diving deep into conversations with people who have distinctive voices as performers, cutting edge approaches to teaching, and really just providing multiple ways of serving their audience. So my guest today is someone so extremely special to me, and you can tell by the grin on my face that I have been looking forward to this for a long time. He's one of my biggest musical and teaching inspirations. We have Dr. Steve Shewan, who I will refer to as Doc throughout the entire interview. Now, Doc is I can't even say music teacher. You're so much more than a music teacher. You are a force and a mentor for so many at the multiple award-winning Williamsville East High School, where you've taught since the 90s. You're an award-winning composer. You've done a lot of research in music education that has influenced many methods and a lot of future music educators as well. You founded the Williamsville District Poetry and Music Celebration, where students collaborate with poets to create beautiful compositions. You received your doctorate from the Eastman School of Music in music education. I mean, the list goes on and on of all of your, really all of your amazing accolades. And I know that we're going to have such a great time diving into this. So we're going to talk about how someone who has never really worked on their ears or really addressed their rhythm skills can dive in and really expand their core musicianship, how you can teach a high school band an entire Shostakovich symphony movement and then perform it without music, with the lights off, why it's important to listen to music with a composer's ear, and how no matter where you are on your musical journey, how you can foster a lifelong love of music. So, Doc, I don't even know where to start, but it's just so amazing to have you here. Thank you for your time and years of amazing mentorship and inspiration.
Well, I want to just lead off with, first of all, thank you, Danny. And I want everyone to understand, Danny went to school here. He did his high school here. I've known him since he's a middle schooler. And I just want to get it out of the way. He's one of the finest people I've ever known. This is a real privilege to do this with him in front of an audience, because we do this pretty regularly. We get on the phone and we'll just sort of solve the musical world's problems on the phone together. And I think that really what this is going to feel like is a typical Danny Zeman Doc conversation that we've got several people eavesdropping in on. And we're thrilled. I'm thrilled that there's actually some people who are going to hear us have one of these conversations. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So, usually I start off with talking a little bit about everyone's musical background. So I'd love to dive into that just for a moment. I know you grew up in a very musical family. Can you tell me just what that was like?
Yeah, I was blessed. My dad was a college professor, a choral director. My mom was an elementary music teacher. My oldest brother is the one who didn't do the trade, but he was a singer. He's a lawyer now. And the middle brother is a professional trumpet player. And then there's me. So there's three boys. And my grandpa and my uncle were piano tuners and piano salesmen. So it's kind of been the family trait. And we all married musicians as well. My wife was a music teacher, an elementary band director. And my brother Paul, the trumpet player's wife, was a music major as well.
Wow. And so you went to Roberts Wesleyan, Ithaca, and Eastman. So you just like straight shot took it all the way and kept the musical family like remained in Western New York, correct?
Yeah, and it's funny because three of us have doctorates in music education. So when we're all hanging out together, we go to the store and someone says, "Hey, Dr. Shewan," we all turn around. it, it could be any one of us.
Oh, I love that. It was serendipitous. It was meant to.
Yeah, but you don't want any of us giving you a physical. I can tell you that right now. Go somewhere else.
Not that kind of doctor.
No.
Oh man. Well, listen, I there are so many directions we can go into, and usually I can find a good segue. I just want to dive into teaching, just because I think what you're doing is so for me it's been so life changing. And
Thank
my
you.
first question for you is, what are some of the common blocks that you see with students who are just starting to work on their ears? Like they come into East High School, you're presenting them all this new information. Like, is there something you see kind of across the board?
Fear. Fear is rampant and it's gotten worse since you were in school. And I'll tell you why. A lot of people are going to relate with this. We're what you would call a high academic high school where it's very competitive. They're trying to go to the Ivies and things like that. Um, and it's all about that. We have this thing called business first that posts what school is the best school in the area. And what that really means is who scores the highest. Well, our upscale area feels a lot of pressure from our community, and our students get a lot of pressure from their parents. And so being wrong, getting the wrong answer is really terrifying for kids. And how can you explore creativity if you can't be wrong? Because you go back to Thomas Edison, he was wrong almost every time, and then he got it right. See? And so fear, believe it or not, fear of being wrong, even with ear training, like, oh my God, he's going to ask me to play something by ear. I can't look at the page. That's a scary thing. So you just have to create this warm environment where it's okay to be wrong, and give these discussions about Thomas Edison and talk about make a mistake, because that's when you're going to grow. That's called a risk, not a mistake. And the other thing I always add to that is I don't know is always an acceptable good answer in this room. So
Yeah.
what is that interval or whatever? I don't know. Good. See?
Yeah.
So fear and trying to take away the fear factor is becoming even more so a prominent problem than when you were in school.
Yeah. Well, I see there is a lot of pressure on people to have to, to have to succeed at what they do or be perceived as being, uh, well, to draw an analogy, like when I'm on a gig, like I want to be perceived as being a good player. I don't want to sound bad. And that puts pressure. And I can imagine, stepping into something that's very vulnerable, like, okay, use your
Yes.
ears, use it from your core musicianship. What is this? Like, it can be terrifying to say, I don't know.
And I want to create an environment where it's good to say I don't know,
Yeah.
because that's what we go to school for. Is
Yeah.
to learn something, not to just know everything.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think it was right around the time I was in high school. And then when I came back to student teach, you and I think the rest of the faculty implemented a 6-week musicianship sequence that anybody in the program, anyone who wanted to play in any ensemble, had to pass before starting to play. So, what was the impetus for that, and what did you see as a result of people going through that sequence?
Well, real quick, actually, we do that for our kids who are a little more serious,
Ah,
and
okay.
then we do it at a lower level with other kids. And then as we try to build up their confidence, then we put them into it. It's kind of a boot camp. I mean, it's pretty tough. Um, what was the what was the last part of that question, Danny?
Yeah. So, what
Was
was
the
what inspired this?
A lot of it was kids can't feel rhythm and they can't read rhythm. And of course, we all know you can't read rhythm if you can't feel rhythm, right? So kids are coming up from the middle school, real fine program. I don't care what middle school it is. Kids come to the high school, they really can't read rhythms. So we finally said, you know what? Our kids can't read. We're at this school that's supposed to have this great arts program, and our kids can't read rhythm. So we need to really focus in on reading rhythm. And so we went with the Gordon system where you move your, if you could see me here, move my hands. I'm going to drop this thing. Yeah, you still can't see it. And the heels. So the heels are doing one, and the hands are going two, two. But we also do standing movements and other things. So try to get that beat in the body. Once kids can feel a beat, and people, if you're out there and you're saying, I can't feel a beat, and I've never told them, you're normal. You're normal. Most people can't feel a beat. And I'm not talking anything philosophical. I'm just talking 1, 2, because there's 2 parts of the beat, down and up, down and up, down and up. And then you could say there's the inner part of that goes round, round, or it's feels like a triple meter, duple meter. All these things are inside the body before they can be inside the mind. And we've got to get them in the mind and in the body. So to answer the question succinctly, which I haven't done, is once a kid can feel rhythm and read rhythm, their confidence level goes up exponentially. So if you can teach the kid to feel and read rhythms, they're hooked, and music is theirs. They know that their teacher could die today and they could carry on in music.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I remember, when I was there and I went through the rhythm exercises, I always struggled. Being totally open here, I always struggled with rhythm. Like I could hear things easily, but feeling time was always a struggle. And going through that boot camp and really just thinking about the movement of time and groove, like absolutely made it something that I could feel and do. But I definitely felt like I was, really behind in my sense of rhythm. And as a bass player, we all know, all the bass players here, time is like our calling card.
Yeah, and you have developed great time. So I think that's important for them to know. I don't think they should think that your time was bad. It's just you wanted it at an extraordinarily high level. And so if the beat was here, sometimes you'd play maybe a little behind or a little, right? And so we focused real hard on getting you to play on the head of the beat, if you recall that. And some of that I think was technique, and some of it was being 16 years old. We can't expect these kids to just have incredible time. We're works in progress. Yeah. Adult learners too. We're works in progress, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely something that everybody can feel, and it's not about making it feel like a metronome. It's about, it's like absorbing it and making it something that is intrinsic and something that we carry with us even away from the instrument.
And it's important that they know that you went through that, because if you don't mind me saying, you have great time. You have world-class time. You've always had amazing ears. My God, people, if you knew what this guy can hear, it's disgusting, but he's got world-class time now. And so what's the story for all of us is something we're working at, and we think, oh, I'm not as good as so-and-so, which we shouldn't even think like anyway. That's part of the problem. But we can develop it, because I'm looking at a guy with world-class time, and we used to work on his time a little bit. I would have forgotten that had you not brought it up.
Yeah, no, we used to work on it a lot of it. I remember my nickname was Thunderfoot because you made me tap my heel so hard so I could really stay on track.
That's right.
Oh man. Well, so the other part of that sequence for the students, which I loved, which was so transformative for me, was using solfege to really identify everything that I was hearing. And man, I can recall watching students sit at the piano and just sing all of the arpeggios at the piano using solfege, singing augmented, diminished triads, everything. And it was so amazing that the students, all including people who have never done ear training before, were working on their core musicianship. It wasn't about technique. It wasn't about learning, something super fast. It was just, what are the skills that I can do independently? And that totally changed the way that I hear music.
That's awesome. Solfege is gold. And the reason why people shy away from it is it takes real commitment. Solfege is language. When you can master it, wow, you own the tune in 12 keys.
Yeah.
If you know your keys immediately.
Yeah. One thing that I know from working with not just different students, but it's just a conversation that comes up is sometimes musicians are reluctant to practice anything that does not involve hands on the instrument. And in your experience, does solfege and ear training help with intonation and technique?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, I have this very talented freshman flute player. She's going to be something special. And I'm doing a sight singing unit with her. And so I have her solfege. And at first it was new to her. Okay. I don't want to say she couldn't do it. It was just a new technique. And then I'd say, okay, she gets to the point where she's getting pretty good, right? And she'll solfege her line. I say, now play it on your flute and hear it before you play it. And she goes, wow. It's the first time in her life she's really had authentic sight reading. Up till then, it was she would play it and then know how it sounds.
Yeah.
Now she knows how it sounds before she plays it. And she got all excited. Perfect example of what you're talking about to illustrate.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, and the thing that I really love about that experience is, I mean, you've used similar pedagogy, for thousands of students over the last,
37 years.
37 years. Yeah. Well, and I think about, all of the people whom you've taught, and like, I'm going to boast on your behalf, but you have taught people who have never improvised before, who have gone on to play in Grammy nominated and Grammy winning jazz ensembles, like people who have gone on to have mega international careers in music. And so it's proof that this is not just jazz training. Like, this is core fundamental musicianship that is for everybody.
Yes. And we also had a terrific jazz musician, Wayne Moose,
Totally.
our orchestra director, great jazz bassist. He was on staff during that time when you were here. He's not on our staff now, but he gave a lot of kids a lot of great skills as well. Yeah, but the thing is, music is music is music. And if a kid, I believe that we should, as music educators, find out where a child's interest is and foster that, and then show them other areas where it could grow into. Okay. So say a kid wants to just, play rock and roll. Well, great. They can do that for their whole life. While they're on their way, I'm going to show them jazz. I'm going to show them classical, right? And we're going to experience that. They may still want to come out and play rock and roll. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. All art form, our music is music is music. My job is to make sure that they get to explore things that they never would have thought of before, right?
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me, or connects me to what you wrote in your dissertation, and I am going to quote part of your dissertation.
That's scary.
But for people who are not familiar with your research, this is amazing because you produced a dissertation that then went on to be cited by scholars like Chris Azera and Alden Snell and Dave Stringham. I traced it, and the impact of your research definitely was felt by a lot of the leading researchers in music education right now who are interested in teaching people how to improvise and compose and the connections to core musicianship. So I'm gonna read this, just a little opening line. And you said, "The process by which we learn music is in many ways similar to how we learn language. Listen, speak, read, and write. Although music instruction should follow a similar common sense sequence, children often are routinely introduced to reading first. So I love that you're interested in giving people a taste of music or an experience in music that may stand sort of against the grain in a lot of ways, even though we know that, this is the way that language operates. Why do you think that listening is given such a low priority in music learning?
I think I know the answer to this, because music teachers feel the pressure of performance so much. So you've got you're a fourth grade music teacher, general music. You get the kids maybe 2 times a week if you're lucky for 40 minutes. And you get a chorus after school, right? And maybe once a week. So you're teaching a unit, and then November rolls around and you've got a concert you've got to put on around the holiday season. And you start doing chorus music in your class, right? Because you've got to take these kids on stage, and you're not given enough time. See, now then this goes to middle school and then high school. Let me use band directors because I am one, right? We do get the kids 5 days a week. But then what a lot of people do is they have lessons with the kids, at least in New York State. We have these rotating lessons. Not all schools do. And they come in, and instead of teaching other things, they refine that band music, because that concert's going to be really good. See, it's going to be the best we can make it. That's so much pressure for the performance that we don't have time to listen. How wrong is that? That's like saying, it's like up in the English class. Well, we've got kids writing, and that's great, but we're not going to read books. We don't have time to read books, man. We've got to write something.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's so true. And it's like, it's like using music. This is what Bill Dobbin says, using music for the edification, for our edification. It's not about preserving the musical value. It's just about entertainment purposes.
Yeah, Bill Dobbin's a really smart man.
Yeah. Well, man,
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's phenomenal. Well, yeah, I'm just so thinking about, my experience in terms of, really deep listening. And I can think about a time when I was in high school, and it's funny because a lot of the transcriptions, like I never knew what transcribing really was. It was just like learning a solo by ear. And I remember I walked into East High School, and in the first week he said, Danny, here's a recording of Chet Baker playing Old Devil Moon. I want you to be able to play the solo by our next lesson. And I was just like, holy crap, what? And I came in the next lesson, I had part of it together. And for the entire lesson, you sat down with us on French horn, you listened to it, you transposed it in your head on French horn, and then we're transposing to say it in concert pitch. So you had like these three different processes going on at the same time. And it was just such a powerful moment to be like, no, this is so important that we're not working on reading right now. We're not doing anything else. Like, we're just going to get the damn thing by ear. And you were always in the trenches with us doing it too, which I always appreciated.
You're sweet to say that. It was J.J. Johnson.
J.J. Johnson.
I mean, impressive that you're a freshman and you even remember that. That's amazing. But yeah, it was J.J. Johnson's recording. Yeah.
Even more impressive that you remember it. Wow. Well, I remember like doing that, and you guys had me transcribe a few Christian McBride solos and Ray Brown solos.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then another really interesting thing was, after we learned a number of tunes, you had all of us write, like you and Moose had all of us write our own tunes as well. Just so amazing. I remember coming into lessons and you were sitting down at the piano working with different people on tunes, and then we would come in and we had an opportunity to perform them with the ensembles as well. I guess I'm just taking a walk down memory lane right now. I'm just nostalgic for it. Well, here's a question. What did you find as a result of working with students on composing? People in high school who have never composed before. What did it do for their musicianship?
I'm going to use an anecdote, and then I'll swing off from there, because this is probably the thing I hate to even say it this way, but I'm most proud of in our program is all the compositions that have been written. But I'm going to take a student who really was not real successful at it. He was okay, he was like he put a little time into it and wrote a little percussion ensemble piece. And then I remember we were rehearsing a piece, and he came up to me afterward and he said, I now that I've written my own, I understand how important dynamics are, and how, so that when I play, I'm trying to express what that composer was trying to get across. And I thought, yeah, that's it.
Wow.
That's it. Just that kind of thing. But so reiterate the question, if you would, Danny, so I can take it in a different direction too.
Yeah. Well, what did you notice about students' musicianship through composing?
Yeah, well, their musicianship goes way up. I mean, when you compose, you have to look at a piece of music with a whole different set of eyes and set of ears. All right, so you're gonna, first of all, they have to, if they're gonna think, let's go traditional, write a theme or write chords. It depends on how you want it, or write colors. All right, but let's go thematically, okay? So they have to write a theme, and well, how many measures is that going to be, right? Like today, I had a young lady who's writing a little jazz song, jazz tune. There's no lyrics, and she wrote 2 7-bar phrases. Well, that's okay. I mean, that can be great. As a matter of fact, Paul McCartney, Yesterday. Did you know those are 7-bar phrases?
No.
Oh yeah, real quick. Yesterday, all my troubles seem a sideways. Now it looks for it is here to stay. Oh, I believe in 7, 2, 3, 4, 1. Oh my God, it's a 7-bar phrase. Yeah. Wow, right?
Yeah.
The bridge is an 8-bar. Okay. So yeah, 7 bars can really be good. She's a 9th grade kid, and her phrase structure doesn't make much sense right now, right? So, we talked about feeling things in 4s, and if you really want to have a 7-bar phrase, it can really work. I had one kid write a piece, and her 7-bar phrase was perfect. Yesterday is perfect, all right? So we don't want to tell kids you have to write 8-bar phrases, because then we'd have to tell Paul McCartney that. But I'm getting a little tangential here. Where were we coming into this?
Talking
the musicianship. So just think about this from a 9th grade kid's perspective. She's thinking about phrase structure. And then we're talking about, okay, do you want to do an AABA, or do you want an ABA or C, or do you want to write something more classical where you're not thinking so 32 bars ish, if you can make that a noun? Think about a 14-year-old child thinking about all those things, let alone the melody, the chords, right? All these things. My God, 4 years of that. And if the kid cares, they're going to come out of an institution with a comprehension of music that's so different than if the child just goes through and plays 3rd clarinet parts for 4 years and has a wonderful experience. Very aesthetic, loves the band, loves the orchestra, loves marching band, whatever it is. Favorite part of their day, okay? Loves it. Wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm just saying that if you teach comprehensively, same experience, child loves band, loves orchestra, but they also know all these things about music, which opens up all kinds of things. We have so many kids who come back and say, I played clarinet for 4 years, but we did all those theory things and all that ear training. Now I'm playing in a rock band in college, and I picked up the bass, or I picked up the guitar. Great. I want you to just love music with your life, however you want to love it. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Well, and so
I could talk about that one all afternoon, and you have to put a lid on me sometimes.
No, it's great. I'm glad to open Pandora's box. Well, so I'm very fortunate to get to work with a lot of adult learners. I love it. And I know that there are a lot here who are listening as well. And so I imagine some of them are thinking, this is great, but I'm not in high school. How can I adopt some of these ideas, composing, doing some ear training in my own practice? So what might you say to that?
It's a great question. I'm not one of those people that believes you have to have everything put together when you're 9 years old. Okay. I'm still working on my own ear training, and I'm still trying to become a better composer. And I've had some pretty good success, to be honest with you. And I'm using myself as an example because we're all in the same thing. At whatever level we're at, we need to develop our ears need to get better. Don't you? I mean, you hear great. Don't you wish your ear was better right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. See, so whatever level we're at, we want to continue to grow, not for selfish reasons or to glorify ourselves, but rather just because we love music and we want to get deeper inside it. So, yeah, I would say you want to try composing. You've never done it before. Go do it. Write something. And then if you're studying with a guy like Danny, show it to him. And he will do probably pretty much what I did. And I'll say, you could do this, or you could do that, or you could do this. And then you may go home and say, I hated everything Danny told me today, but that showed me what I don't want to do. I want to do this. And I'll have a kid who'll come in, do the exact opposite of what I said. And it's great. And I get all excited because my teacher, Sam Adler, would do that with me. He would always say, Stephen, put an F sharp right there. What I kind of finally figure out is he didn't really want an F sharp. He wanted more tension, right? So I'd put a totally different note, change the chord, and I'd come in and he'd get to that point and he'd go, that spot, very good. And it's the same thing. These people can bring their work to you or share it with each other. And no matter how bad they think it is, they're writing. And the bottom line is this: bad composition is better than no composition.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had my very fair share of bad compositions, but no,
man, you were good. You were in the Kenny Wheeler when you were in high school. And you wrote that really cool Kenny Wheeler piece. And was that the one where we brought that baritone singer in
Yes.
from Eastman that married Blondria?
Yeah.
And that was such a cool tune that you wrote, and it was really, really good. It was, and see, that highlights another thing. Danny, at that point in his life, was in the Kenny Wheeler. Am I right? It was Kenny Wheeler?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, you were in the Kenny Wheeler. So he wrote music that sounded a little like Kenny Wheeler, but it also wasn't Kenny Wheeler. See, and so I would suggest to all the composers out there, people who want to get into composition, what do you love? Write like that, and then spin off, and you'll find your own voice.
Yeah,
because that's what you love, right? And we want to write something that means something to us.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a good tool for exploration. Like when I sit down at the piano and I'm trying to write music, I learn so much about how music functions because I'm trying to translate what I hear into something that I can actually tangibly play. And it's like putting together a puzzle piece or putting together a bunch of puzzle pieces that have lots of different potential images in the end. It's really fun to just see the lights turn on.
That's a great way to put it. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you look at an individual piece, you can't tell what it is. Usually, right? Unless it's like a little dog's head or something like that. But very often it's a blob. And then you put it in and you go, oh, that belongs to that chifforobe over there, or whatever it is.
Exactly. Well, you said something, it was either in an interview or maybe it was just in one of our great conversations, talking about listening to music with a composer's ear. And I love that concept again of just getting into a piece of music, participating in a piece of music, and really trying to understand the nuts and bolts of what's going on. And I can think of times where we played Sousa in high school, and then you would make everyone sing the theme. You would make all of us learn the chord changes and improvise over Sousa marches, do group analysis. And it was amazing because afterwards you could tell that we definitely understood the piece on a different level. Yeah, I think about that and making that possible for everybody. And so it also brings me to another memory again of going home between 11th and 12th grade, for summer break, and you gave us a recording of a Shostakovich symphony.
Actually,
And
it was Shostakovich Galop.
Gallup, that's right. It was Gallup. We played.
We did play a movement of the Fifth Symphony
Yes.
for band that year. That's why you're getting the two a little interconnected. But go ahead.
Yeah. So Gallup, and you gave us recordings of the piece and our individual parts. And your assignment for us was to go home and learn it by ear. And then when we came into class, like the first day of classes, we played the thing, and it was just incredible that we all were like, oh, this is how our part fits into the whole entire thing. And we did it without music. Man, I remember that as such a transformative experience. And it wasn't about people who had exceptional talent being able to do it. It was just about what you do, what you do when you're exposed to something for a long period of time. You really listen to it, and it gets you. I mean, just the process of doing it by ear, not having your head buried in the music and being forced to understand how your part fits in the whole. I can imagine it was probably a pretty surreal experience standing in front of the group watching that happen too.
It's a blast. We affectionately call it the summer ear tune, and it could be Chesnikov's Salvation is Created. It could be, last year it was Granger's Irish tune from County Derry. We've done the Shostakovich a couple times because that goes so well. The Gallup. We did Ye Banks and Braes by Granger. We've done a lot. I've arranged a couple choral pieces out and done that. But yes, one of my favorite parts of the year is the first day, when we're not having a pandemic, of course, because we take that time in June and we record all the parts. And I don't tell the kids what the name of the piece is because they'll go look it up, and the temptation to look up the part, because their responsibility is to come back on day one and know their part to the best of their ability. And then we do it, and the looks and the feeling in the room is even though there's mistakes, it's there, and no one has music, and they're all looking at each other and playing. And it's not like they memorized it either. They memorized it, but they didn't memorize it by looking at it. It was all here. And so we go and we spread out in the audience, and we're all around the audience, and we play these pieces, and the kids can play it because it's inside of them. I mean, we could do this by memory, and some schools do. But man, to just learn it by ear, it's powerful.
Yeah. And it's not just Shostakovich. I mean, we did that in our jazz ensemble. Like, we would play Shiny Stockings by Count Basie, or the Frank Foster played by the Basie
Frank
band.
Foster version, right? Good job. Good for you. Good.
But before we did that, you and Moose taught us the tune. I remember listening to a Barney Kessel recording of Shiny Stockings. You made us learn the tune from the recording before we actually played the big band arrangement of it. And we learned the tune, we learned to improvise on it, again, all by ear, before we actually had the charts and had to play the Frank Foster arrangement of it.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that we're doing now that we didn't do when you were here is we do a little bit of pep band work for the football game, before the football game. And so what we do is we cover all these pop tunes, and we do it all by ear. And we let the kids make the arrangement decisions.
Wow.
So we're playing, like, we'll do 9-10 tunes in September, right? And we'll play come on, Irene, but Eileen. I can have the kids pick the tunes, right? We'll do all these pop tunes. The kids want to do what's that? I don't want to get into what they are. I'll screw it up. But they get to arrange and they get to choose what their part's going to play, and they argue it out. Say, no, we think the trumpets should play this passage here. No, the saxophones want that. They're going to play the melody. All right, trombones are going to have the easy part. Whatever. It's just there's so much out there that you can do orally instead of going out and spending $50 for a cheap little pep band thing. I don't want to play those things. Nobody wants to play those things. But if the kids get to arrange their own, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and it's like you're giving everyone the keys to being a band leader as well, right? So they're not reliant upon anybody else to make the musical decisions for them, but they develop that skill, and it really makes them think like, what is my vision for the music?
Right. And I'll admit, the first couple arrangements every year, I make more decisions than I'd like, but then you start handing it off to the kids. And sometimes you don't like the decisions they make and you just shut your mouth. That's okay. I learned that from Sam Adler too. He'd say, sometimes I tell them exactly what they ought to do. They come back and do something other, and they're wrong, but I don't tell them. He's beautiful. He's one of my favorite men on the planet. What a genius. Oh,
Yeah.
but what a blessing for me to have gotten to work with a guy. What I learned from him though is that when you're trying to be creative and you're teaching creativity, you have to celebrate the effort. Even like sometimes a kid will bring me their new composition and I don't like it. That happens. It's going to happen to every teacher all the time. And so you find something good about it because you've got to build these kids' confidence. They're high school kids. And then you try to take them in a direction, and sometimes they don't want to go because it's their piece and it's too personal for them, right? And wow, this old guy's trying to tell me to do this, and he doesn't get it. He's old, that kind of thing. It's okay. They'll go there if they're ready and when they're ready. What matters is we're creating, we're arranging,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
We're soloing, we're improvising. It's all the same stuff.
yeah, well, exactly. I mean, that's the thing when you're talking about music in this way, it's like whether you're ear training or writing or composing, or it all comes from the same place. There's really no border between any of those skills, and it needs to be celebrated because learning should not feel like punishment.
Oh, amen, brother. I think about Sam Adler. I'd have a bad week and I'd come in with 8 measures written. And he'd look through it and he'd point to one measure and say, that's beautiful. And that's what I needed, see? And he knew that. That's what I needed. And next week I came in with a boatload of music because that was beautiful, see? So I'll often go through my kids' piece and they're saying, it's not very good. And I say, actually, that's really, really beautiful. You could do this or you could do that. I love the way you did. This is the way we have to approach creativity. It's not a lie. It's not a lie because the kid wrote a piece. How amazing is that? The kid wrote a theme, and that's beautiful in itself. All right. And sometimes it's really it's really tough to come up with some positives, but you can always come back to the fact that this kid wrote a piece or is writing a piece. And the option is they either write a piece or they don't write a piece. So they're bringing in something that's a precious gem, and we need to help them polish it.
Yeah. Well, and what's the difference between a student writing a piece and not writing a piece versus an adult, professional musician who's writing a piece or not writing a piece? There's no difference. It's just literally about the amount of time and effort and love that you put into what you do.
Yeah. Right on, man.
Man, I think about, many of the students who I'm fortunate to work with. And I had, for my program, I had what I called the October challenge and the December challenge. And I said, listen, I want you all to write a bass line to a tune that you're working on every single day. And so I had students who were writing 1 bass line a day, sometimes 2 bass lines a day. And
wow,
some people
great.
wrote as many as 100 choruses of bass line by the end of December. I had, I think, a grand total of 800 pages of walking bass lines between the 18 people.
That's
And
beautiful.
just the watching the lights turn on as a result of, wow, like I have so much great content, or wow, I really learned to read comfortably, or wow, I actually hear how this tune works. It's like that experience that doesn't belong to just professionals, or it's like that's just the work. And if you do the work, regardless of where you're at on your journey, it will make the difference. And it's just about, showing up and really, I mean, even if you're not ready to commit to yourself and your musicianship, it's like just sticking a toe in is still enough just to put yourself in a position to succeed.
Absolutely. And I know that you have a lot of students out there that study with you. And I just want to tell them, because your other interviewees are not going to know this. Man, he loves you guys. He loves teaching you. He gets all jacked up and he'll call me up and tell me, oh, this guy did this, and this guy's doing this. He's all pumped, man. And here he is. He's a professional musician, see, but sharing it with someone else as an educator is just wonderful. And who has the best subject in the world? We do. We teach music. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? What's better than that?
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. It's so true. Oh man, I I had another question for you, and I totally lost it. I was so so inspired.
Sorry, man.
No. No. I have, and the funny thing is, like, I have, for everyone watching, I have my list of questions that I'm following. Um, oh man, well,
But we're getting sidetracked like we always do, right?
yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Oh, so two things I wanted to ask you about. I think this is very important for people to know. So in the context of talking about learning by ear and doing all these things away from the instrument and away from the sheet, we're not advocating for throwaway sheet music entirely, right?
Oh, wow. No, actually, I'm going to go the flip side. I think we work harder on reading music here than any place I've seen. We work just before I came on with you, I was trying to teach some kids some real basic rhythms, and I had them moving, and that's all we were doing was rhythm. We weren't playing. We're chanting rhythms. And man, that takes commitment and time. But if you don't give the kids that, they can't write. They can't read. They're probably not going to play real well by ear, because when you read and feel and move, the other side comes together better. See,
Yeah.
usually you hear the other, hey man, you can't read until you can feel. Well, that's true too. But when you can learn to read, you feel better. It's really a big, round, rich experience that keeps going around in the circle and spirals up. See, and if you start missing a component, it can't spiral.
Yeah.
And so you got to teach them how to read. I mean, man, I spend an inordinate amount of my time teaching kids rhythm, because rhythm is where most people are weak.
Yeah.
Most musicians.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thing that you're getting into is teaching reading with comprehension. So you're not just saying, okay, that's an A, I push this button, but you know what it sounds like, and you're able to make it your own. I think that's the issue for a lot of musicians, especially when it comes to learning the jazz tunes in the real book. I mean, talk about something that has been so wonderful and such a block for so many musicians, because it was a step in collecting so many great tunes and making it available for people to play, but it doesn't usually become a stepladder. It becomes sort of an insurmountable wall, in that it doesn't teach us to actually absorb the tunes. It's just we can always have it there, and it's the same thing as reading without comprehension. I can read it, but the real book doesn't actually tell me what to play. It doesn't tell me what jazz is supposed to sound like. That's something that I have to bring to those charts.
Yeah, I think the real book is more written kind of like the original Broadway tune. Like for example, we're doing Funny Valentine this week for obvious reasons, right? All the kids are going to solo on Funny Valentine tomorrow. Okay.
Oh,
Well, if you look at the real book, it's pretty much the way it was in Babes in Arms, or was it Babes of Arms, baby? You know the show, right?
yeah.
It's my funny Valentine, right? It's real rhythmic, but nobody's gonna play it like that as a jazz tune, right? We've got to, so we listen to Chet, we listen to Miles, we listen to a whole bunch of things, but those were the two we really focused on. We listened to Sinatra, we listened to Ella. Yeah, we went all around the gamut and look at it. How are they placing those rhythms? Because in this case, I didn't even give them the real book, to be honest with you. We just we learned this one totally by ear, and we've been working it that way. But if you have the real book, it's a way to help you learn it quicker, but you've got to be careful that you don't do it the 1930s, the way it was written in the 1930s, or people aren't going to want to hear your gig, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing that I love about this, and we talked a little bit about this before the interview started, but you're talking about interacting with jazz music and with all these sensibilities, and you by trade are not, you're coming from a classical music tradition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a classical musician. I'm a pianist and French hornist, conductor, got into composition as a young age. My doctorate is in music ed and composition of all weird things. That was the first DMA with music ed / composition in the history of the Eastman School of Music. All right. Wow. Bizarre, because no one had ever considered it. I think they've had one since, but I'm not sure. Just kind of unusual. Yeah. But I think that for those of you out there who are trained classically and you feel second rate because you weren't trained as a jazz musician, I think that's wrong. And I'm going to flip that over. Those of you who grew up as jazz musicians and you think you're second rate because you're not a classical musician, I know that's wrong. They're both wrong, because music is music is music. And what we really want to do is learn to develop our aural skills and play by ear, as well as our reading skills, and be able to play Mozart and Beethoven as beautifully as we can, and then turn around and play a tune. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope the fact that I'm not Rufus Reed, all right, and excuse me, Rufus Reed, if I may, okay, or Bill Dobbins, the fact that I'm not that, and I'm a high school band director who, yes, I'm also a composer. I have that other side, but still, I hope that speaks to somebody, even if it's just one person who says, "Hey, okay, I don't have to be Rufus Reed to dive into ear training seriously, or maybe I'll compose, because that guy did once when he was a young kid. No one was teaching me how, right? Just like so many self-taught jazz musicians, no one taught them how, they just found it. That was me with composition, okay? So yeah, wherever that started, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, music is music. That's the thing. Like when we listen to music, yeah, it's not like, oh, that's a jazz G7 chord. It's like, no, that's like, music is so above genre. And what you're talking about is that we're making music accessible for everybody. And again, it's not just for kids. Like anywhere you are on the journey, taking these steps to really dive into your musicianship will serve you well. It's never too late. Am I right?
Oh boy. Because again, some of the greatest things in the world, food, music, I won't go there. All right. But okay, I went there. But let's take food, for example. Does there ever come a time where you don't love to eat or want to explore a new food, right? If you're really a foodie, or drink, or whatever it is, that's music. And it's not just for the musicians. It's great. We need audience members. Yes, I'm all for that. But the more people participate, the more they're going to want to be an audience member. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we need, musically literate people, and not just reading, but just knowing the sound of music. Like it's all connected. We need people that listen as much as we need people who play.
Yeah. And I think that if everybody played, we'd have more people who are listening.
Yeah, that's for sure.
at a
Now,
much deeper level. Yeah, and I do believe. Look, everyone loves music, even if they don't understand a thing about it. They can't play "Mary Had a Little Lamb," but they have their favorite songs, right?
yeah,
And I'm not taking away from that. That matters. But what I'm saying is, if you delve deeper, it even matters more. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
And we as musicians and educators, we can share that with people. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, some educators decided that math, science, history, and English are core and music's off to the side just for the kids who want to do it. Man, if you're out there and you're an educator and you can change that in your school and give every kid in your school mandatory music and then get some good teachers for them, watch your scores go up if that's what you care about. All
yeah.
right. But more importantly, watch their hearts grow and their understanding of humanity grow. And you'll really be turning out some remarkable people.
Yeah. Well, listen, talk about the sense of community that music brings to people. I mean, I can tell you that I felt like crap in my math classes in high school. That was something that brought me down. But when I went to jazz improv, and yes, Doc with Wayne Moose created jazz improv classes for students, Jazz Improv 1 and Jazz Improv 2. And I was sitting there with Dan, I think it was, no, Danny White had graduated, but um, Griff Kazmerzak and
Great
Alexis
players.
and Angelo, rest in peace.
Oh,
Uh,
God bless him. Jeez,
yeah.
that hurts.
And I remember all of us were sitting in the room and we were so excited and equally nervous because the assignment for that day was write eight, was it eight choruses of blues line, like eight choruses of a blues solo, where each chorus had progressively more and more stuff. And we had to sing it. We could not use our instruments. And we were also so nervous, but man, talk about the sense of community and what it brought for us and our courage to be able to step up and do it. And that for me stands out as one of the memories, from my jazz education. And keep in mind, everyone, like, I have jazz degrees and I've toured internationally. And when I think about the things that really influenced my jazz education, I think about learning Old Devil Moon, J.J. Johnson. I think about that moment where I'm sitting by the piano ready to sing my lines. I mean, this is the stuff that doesn't require, tons and tons of books or memorizing patterns or degrees. Like, this is just stuff that anybody can do, and it really can bring people together.
Right on, man. Boy, we had an unbelievable amount of talent at that time. And I want people to understand that we aren't always every year asking kids to write eight choruses. We had an amazing group of people who are out. They're all out being professional musicians at some level right now. And I mean, performers. What So like right now, I've got kids who are all going to be engineers and doctors and things like that, and they play really well. The assignment's going to be a little bit different to fit the needs of those students right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 But still, like I said, they're all playing Funny Valentine tomorrow, and they're trying to add a little bluesy lick over the dominant chord, maybe a little flat nine, sharp nine activity on the dominant chord, or right, and dealing with the minor to the major, and there's a lot of things they're thinking about, and it's just, when do you get tired of teaching music? Just the best.
Yeah, I know. Man, well, I have to send this to you, and if I'm feeling courageous, I might share this with the few hundred participants for this retreat. But I found a record that I made with Russ Algira and Angelo when we were 16, and
Wonderful.
it was all the tunes that we had learned in high school. And I kid you not, I listened to it a few months ago, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to expect from this. I was like, it still sounds like me, and I had a voice. It's so crazy.
Yes,
I
we're
had a
good.
voice at that time, and I really attribute it to just, working with you, working with Moose, being in that environment, being part of that community, and just being encouraged, honestly. And again, this is something that's not just for kids, but being encouraged to make music without fear.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad you brought this discussion full circle, because where there's fear, it's so hard to be creative. There's
Yeah,
no creativity in fear.
absolutely. And again, anybody can do this. Music is for everybody. It's not just for the lucky few.
Absolutely. You don't have to sound like Danny Zeman. You sound like you. And if you do a 2-note solo, great. Play the best 2-note solo you can and have fun.
Yeah.
And replace fear with love, because you love doing this. Otherwise, if you people didn't love doing this, you wouldn't be sitting here on a Wednesday afternoon checking this out. This means something to everybody here. There's no two ways about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, well, I know we are just at the hour. I have one more quick question if that's
Believe
okay
it.
for you.
Quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that we need to get more people to eavesdrop on our phone calls, because
Yeah.
we have good stuff to
Because
talk
we
about.
do these.
So if you could go back to 20-year-old Doc or pre-Doc, what advice would you give yourself?
I was too competitive. If I could have understood what I understand now, that when anybody has success, everybody has success.
Wow. Yeah.
It's not about it's not about an individual. It's about everybody. And but the bottom line is, we really need to make the world a better place. And beating someone is not the way to get there. The
Yeah.
way to get there is to give a hand up. And sometimes that's giving yourself a hand up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's somebody else. But it's all about that love. And if I could have told myself that when I was 20, I would have been happier it would have taken me less years to find peace.
Wow. Yeah. Totally. Well, I love giving ourselves a hand up. Absolutely. Sometimes we have to find that permission to allow ourselves to do the things that we want to do, and it's powerful to be able to get to that moment.
Yeah.
Man, well, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, it's a very vulnerable thing to share, and we all appreciate it. And man, I cannot tell you enough how much working with you throughout my entire life has inspired me. And honestly, for anyone who studied with me, I probably quote or share something that you taught me at least once a day. I mean, the inspiration is just, endless. And of all the teachers I've ever had in my life and all the musical inspirations, like, I can really look back to you as, a core part of the majority of that. So for you, I am forever thankful for your mentorship and your friendship, and I love you, and just thank you for being such a wonderful supporter for not just me, but thousands and thousands and thousands of musicians and wonderful people out there.
Thank you, Danny. And I hope that people understand I love you too, man. You're really special to me. You're very, very special to me.
Well, I'll look forward to giving you a hug in person when we're able to do that.
Come home to Buffalo, my friend.
I will so look forward to it. But Doc, thank you again. And for everybody who tuned in, thank you for spending the hour with us.
Appreciate that. All of you.
So special. And we have 4 more interviews. So tomorrow we are speaking with Bob Snyder and Marco Panacea. And actually, believe it or not, the first time I ever heard Marco Panacea play bass was in the office that you're sitting in right now. I found a YouTube video of him playing an F blues. And now it's serendipitous that we are going to interview him tomorrow. It's phenomenal.
Unbelievable. Isn't that beautiful? Wow.
So full circle. So, and then for anyone else who hadn't heard the news yet, so on Friday, we're interviewing Bill Dobbins, and then just confirmed with the management that Joshua Redman will be doing our closing interview. And first time I ever heard Josh Redman was Elastic in the same, also seriously in the same band room that you're in right now. So
Beautiful.
the connections are just endless. So again, Doc, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing all of you very, very soon. Oh, Doc, is there a way that we can check out some of your amazing music? Are there any links that I can share with everyone to check out your compositions?
Yeah. If they just put my name in, Stephen is spelled Stephen, Shewan. I think some of the ones that they might enjoy, I got a piece called Ballad. I got a piece called The Piece, as in Peace. And there's an elegy for string orchestra. Those are a few more recent recordings that we've made. The Army Strings just put the elegy up. They did that, and they just posted that. So if you want to check out those, I do have a website. You know, I'm an educator and a composer. I'm not the world's greatest businessman, and I'm always behind on my website, you know, that kind of thing. I've got a guy who's helping me. So, but you know, you can check out the website. But check out those two. Take a look at Ballad. It's me playing with my brother, and also The Piece. And then check out that elegy, the string orchestra piece. And then I do write things that are more jazzy. They're like classical music with that real strong jazz twist, like that Just Saying piece I wrote for trombone, or King David's Dance. You can check them all out. But start with the ballad, because I think it speaks most of who I am. And I write a lot of choral music too. I haven't even talked about that, you know. My Silent Night is probably the most popular. So look at my name, Silent Night. Sorry, it's a Christmas song in the middle of February, but whatever. It's still cold, especially up here. Especially up here, and we've got some snow right now, brother.
Oh man, it's 1 degree.
It's beautiful.
I miss it. You know, I've been away from home for so long that I'm actually nostalgic about lake effect snow.
It's gorgeous. It's white. The sun's shining on it. If you haven't been to Buffalo in the winter, it can be gorgeous.
Yeah, totally. I think people don't quite understand how just how wonderful of a place it can be.
Yeah.
So, well, Doc, thank you again. So much love. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you throughout the rest of the week.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, Doc. Thank you.